Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Geeks from the Multiverse. Just a couple guys talking about geeky stuff. Today we got a great episode. We're going to be talking about He-Man, Masters of the Universe. That's right, we're going to be breaking down the history of the show. What the hell is He-Man? And we're going to be talking about some of the funny-ass names for some of these characters because it's hilarious. So stay tuned. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Geeks from the Multiverse podcast. I am one of your hosts, Matt, a.k.a. Mr. Grumpy Beard. With me, as always, is John.
What's up, y'all? And no, unfortunately, I don't have a cool name like Matt over here yet.
Little J-Win.
No, see, he says Little J-Win. I'm still coming up with that idea. I mean, yes, mine's Wicked Ripper 27, I know. But, like, I got to come up with something different. We're going to get there at some point. But anyways, guys, He-Man in the Masters of the Universe. Now, from my understanding, like, you know, I know this was really an 80s show, and of course, yes, I wasn't alive. I know we're going to go into technicals here, but like, it's one of those shows that, yeah, I know as an 80s kid, right? You're probably like, oh my God, this is like, it was a good TV show. It was like, it was funny, you know, it had its moments. It was just,
if you really don't break it down, it was really amazing. But once you start breaking, like once you start really looking, and I think like as a kid, obviously, like, the show was created in 83, so it was really one of the first syndicated shows to be based on a toy. But like in the mid 80s when it was on, you know, as a kid, like you really didn't look at it that way. Like you were just kind of like, wow, this is really cool. Like a barbarian guy, like beating ass, like he was just kicking people's ass. And that was cool. Like, but when you get older and you see it now and you're really like, what the hell? Like, what were they thinking when they named some of this stuff? And like,
well, I was going to say the imagination, you know, like
it left a room. Like it wasn't, it really just wasn't.
No, but the creativity was never there. And so like, it was
I never want to like rip on, autism or autistic people at all. But if you took an autistic person and had them create a character and characters and a show, this is what you would come up with, because everything is literal in the show. If you have a character that's based on a merman. You have a character with a metal jaw. Guess what his name is? Trap Jaw. Like, it's very, very literal.
Or what was it? Didn't you say there was like a boar character or something like that? It was like Boar Man or I don't know, something stupid like that.
Leech Man. It literally had like a sucking face of a leech. Everything was very, even Skeletor.
Yeah.
He's a skeleton.
A legit skeleton. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
He's a legit skeleton. So, even He-Man, it's a man. And it's a he.
Well, technically, it's a pronoun. So, what is he, pronoun man? Like, He-Man?
So, everything is very, very literal. But, before there was a show, there were comics. Before there was a movie with Dolph Lundgren. We won't go there because that's a terrible movie. Don't watch that. But He-Man actually was a child's drawing brought to life years later as an action figure. And the figure was created using these big gym figures, which if you know, like the classic, which I think they actually reintroduced the classic versions, which they're newer versions, but they're like the classic versions. They added clay, like posed it in more of like an action pose, but they created these toys. And then this is where the show came in afterwards. And it's a lot like G.I. Joe.
Well, like G.I. Joe, and I would even say like the Transformers, right? Because it's that similar effect of like, hey, we're going to make these toys and then we're going to make a TV show based on what they've, created and whatever forth. Yeah. But, in this case, it's like, hey, we're going to, it's a child's drawing, then goes into basically action figures because they're using a template, and then they do this, and then they make the TV show, and then, of course, they made the movie and so forth. So it's interesting how this is just based off a child's drawing.
Yeah.
And then basically becoming real life. I mean, that'd be cool. I mean, actually, I'll just say this real quick. I know Matt saw saw this very old book that I created when I was a kid, and he was like, "What kind of fucking shit is this? And what pile of dog shit did you just treat me to?" And I'm like, "Well, this pile of dog shit that you're fucking, crapping on, this go fuck yourself moment here for me." He's like, "Oh, is that you really? This is what you did?" And he starts laughing about it. I'm like, "Yeah, well, what if it became reality, huh?" The I can't even remember. It's like the foursome or whatever. And I was just sitting there like, listen, my creativity wasn't the greatest. Okay, clearly this guy, whoever created it, made something clearly more about it. But it's just like it's crazy that you're like, hey, I'm going to draw this as a child, and all of a sudden becomes like a major, basically cult classic, in the world of this, and especially animated shows. So it's just crazy. It'd be like doing it today as a kid, and you're like, hey, I'm going to make basically a childhood dream come true.
Yeah, and I trying to find like the original drawing. I don't think really exists online unless you really did like a deep search for it. But like
the dark web, that's probably
you probably have to go to the dark web, which I'm not doing that.
He's like, I ain't playing that game.
But like, yeah, I mean, He-Man is such a as a child, like when you're watching it, it is such a cool concept because like you look at like. Who is He-Man? Like, what is He-Man? And if you're a player of D&D or like role playing games, like He-Man would be a barbarian class. That's realistically like what he would be.
Oh yeah, I mean, and that would make the most sense.
But He-Man like has an alter ego. In the story, it takes place in I guess you can call it a planet. I don't know if the planet's called Eternia or if they're just where they're from is called Eternia, but the series like takes place in Eternia. The whole planet is like magic, myth, and fantasy. The lead character is Prince Adam. He's the young son of King Randor and Queen Marlena. But he was given the Sword of Power by the sorceress, and when he says, like, it's a pretty famous line, everybody, if you know He-Man, everybody knows it. It's like, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. He transforms into He-Man.
Well, I was going to say, I know when he says it, he's like, I have the power. And he's like screaming.
There's that like echo, yeah. I have the power.
And then he turns it. He's like, I'm He-Man,
And he I mean, as Prince Adam, he kind of looks like a wimpy dude. Like, like he has like that weird, like that weird outfit and like the bob haircut, like whatever that like weird hair, like
he'd be like, hey guys, my name's Prince Adam.
Hey guys, I'm Prince Adam.
Like let's get to it. Yeah,
I'm the Prince of Eternia. Like, hey.
Okay. And then all of a sudden you have He-Man who's like, hello.
Hey guys, what's up?
He's very deep and he's like, again, very muscular.
But he also has a very cowardly pet tiger named Cringer. Like when he transforms into He-Man, he becomes Battle Cat. So between the sorceress and Tila, who is kind of like, I guess like one of the, characters on the show, but she's kind of like a soldierish kind of character in the show. Man at Arms, which he's, if you get the meaning of Man at Arms, he's the guy that's in charge of the weapons. That's kind of where we're getting at with some of the names and the imagination kind of leaving the room.
Well,
Man at Arms, he's the guy that is in charge of the weapons, of the arms of Eternia. So he's in charge of all of that.
Well, and then you got this next guy, Man-E-Faces.
Well, he's a villain. But
no, yes. but I'm just saying, like, so, but again, Man-E-Faces. So basically, many faces.
Yeah, and he actually has different faces that turn with different, expressions on them. Like, so one could be sad, one could be mad, one could be happy. Yeah, so he has different faces. But basically, like, the whole premise of the show is that He-Man uses his powers to defend Eternia from the evil forces of Skeletor. And, Skeletor's main goal is basically to capture, Castle Grayskull, getting the Sword of Power, and ruling Eternia and taking over the universe. Like, that's pretty much the whole premise of the show. obviously Skeletor doesn't really become successful and he loses every time. Not so much in the newer, series, because he actually does kind of win a little bit in the newer,
the newer series.
In the newer series until the last one came out, and then he.
So
that's pretty good.
I'm going to mention a couple of like characters that I know can be more villains than whatnot, but like when we're talking about the creativity of like these names, okay, so I'm just going to name a few here. So like one guy, granted,
you're jumping the gun here. I see what you're doing.
We're going to jump around here. We're going to kind of do a little bit of both here. So like, and I know we're going to talk about He-Man basically being the main character here, but like, so this is where we start to look at some of the characters' names. So like again, we got a guy named Hero. Right, so
he was the first. So he was the very first. So before He-Man, Hero was the very first. So the he is kind of I think how they explained it's more of like a role, like it's a
title or something.
It's more of like a title. So like if you were kind of like a captain or a lieutenant, it's like he. And I don't know where the row comes in, or
it sounds like it's the last name.
The difference between row or man, or.
But
I don't know like where those kind of come in.
No, but when you spell it out,
I mean, it's kind of like she-ra.
Well, right, but it's like what I'm saying is that you're taking literally a word and you're just like splitting it up and saying instead of hero, it's he-ro. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're doing that, or like even better. Because for example, we got a villain named Stinkor or Stinker. That's the way I would say it. But it's like, okay, let me guess. He's probably a skunk. If I'm taking a wild guess here, right, Matt? Is he a skunk or something?
Yeah, he wasn't a skunk, but he kind of gave off like an
odor
and like a stink. Yeah,
right. And so you got another one. Ready? King Hiss.
Yeah, and we'll get more into these names,
but it's just
in a bit. But yeah, it's not very imaginative, and
no, not at all. Like Beastman and Evelyn and Mossman. I mean, I can go on for days here, but like, what made you think that this was going to be a good idea? That's just me. Like, why would you think that these are
when you go from a child's drawing? I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
But okay, go ahead.
Like, when you're going for, Prince Adam to He-Man, like some of the differences were very minimal. Like obviously the skin tone and the hair was darker. The voice was deeper. There was a different wardrobe, but like, I think overall it was just like you take the overall look of Adam and then you add muscle, darker skin tone, darker hair, and deepen the voice. And it's just kind of like, hello, He-Man, and I think after a while, like obviously the king and queen didn't automatically know, Adam was He-Man. And I think a lot of like the Eternians weren't aware that Adam and He-Man were
the same
person. I think they thought that they were obviously two separate people. But I think like let's break down some of the abilities, because like some of these abilities are like crazy. And I think if we're talking like DC character, because I think you talk Superman, who's arguably probably the strongest, at least comic book character.
I would say. And hold on, in DC, yes.
Unless DC, you're talking but they actually did a crossover with He-Man.
Right. I'm just saying the way I'm looking at this too is that yes, if you're just talking about DC, then yes, I would say you're right. Superman is definitely I think arguably he probably could go hand in hand with the Hulk. I think that's Superman. Yes, I think absolutely.
No, I'm talking He-Man.
You're talking about He-Man.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's.
I think, but like let's kind of go through this. So superhuman strength. He welded a broken metal chain together simply by pushing the links together.
Interesting.
He was able to hoist Castle Grayskull and throw it through an interdimensional portal.
Okay. Not saying it's not impressive, but okay.
He lifted mountains and icebergs and hurled them towards a desired target.
That's okay. That's very specific.
So there's an unbreakable metal in the He-Man universe. It's called Photanium, and he was shown to be the only person to break it. Photanium and I can't even joke about this, but it's mined on a planet called Phantos. It's like you can't even make this shit up because it's so dumb that like photanium is mined on a planet called Phantos. Like,
yeah, it's
they couldn't even think of a different name for the planet. Like,
no. I mean, again, I know it's a planet with like phantom, but it's like seriously, that you couldn't have thought of.
But in the comics, like there was a comic that was from I think DC where Superman went through kind of this like interdimensional portal and landed in Eternia. And initially they did fight. They went one-on-one, and he was able to go one-on-one with Superman. Obviously they ended up working together to defeat,
Skeletor and a few others probably.
Yeah. But he was able to go one-on-one, and this was with pre-crisis Superman, which if pre-crisis was different from what we see like in the movies and some of the stuff that we've seen.
Right.
But stamina, durability, speed, agility, reflexes, wisdom, immortality, combat experience, energy absorption, projection. He's almost indestructible. This is where I think there's a limit to his ability, because in the show and even the newer ones, if he takes too much damage or he uses too much magic, he reverts back to Adam.
So the question is it's knowing, I guess, for him, like that limit. So it's like how, I guess in like the show, like do you remember like any example of like him doing it way too much that he reverts back to Adam at that point?
I mean, I can't say from the original show, but I know the newer show does go into this.
Okay.
Where, he does kind of push himself and then reverts back to Prince Adam, where I think the newer show, like, that's where Skeletor gets the sword and, like, becomes, like, this kind of ultimate Skeletor.
No, what I'm saying is like...
But, like, yes, if he uses too much, he reverts back to Prince Adam.
I just didn't know if you remember, like, any moment, even in the newer show, like, that he reverted back because of, like, let's say let's say that Skeletor became like this juiced up version of himself and like was getting beat.
Well, that was why he became that juiced up version, because he was pushing himself too far. Like, but that is what happened in the show in the comic books.
Okay,
where he, if he does push himself or he does take like too much damage per se.
Yeah.
Because he is almost indestructible as He-Man, but there's a limit to like the strength and the stamina, where if he like does overexert, he's not going to be able to do it forever.
Well, no, I just didn't know, like, again, that limit per se, because like if he's taking a lot of, like if he's going against Superman, you're taking a lot of damage, at that point, and it's like you're going to have to go for a while.
I mean, he did go one-on-one with Superman, so I mean, it wasn't so much of like, he was overexerting or took too much damage there, because he didn't revert back, I don't think, in that fight, but
but like I said, like, if we were to ever like talk about it down the road, it's like, how much damage could he really take, and before he would actually have to revert back to Prince Adam, you know what I mean? Because like there's only so much you can do, and no matter which way. Where like the Hulk is like, as we all know, is like the basically the more you beat the shit out of him, the more he's going to get angrier and become more stronger than what he originally was. So that's what I'm saying. Like he doesn't really have that limit per se, where he clearly, if like he takes way too much damage and does all this, he'll go back to being Prince Adam, and like it'll probably be a while before he can go back to being He-Man. That's where I was saying like that limit in sense, and just wondering if there was ever like a time, besides just, basically overexerting himself or whatever, like the damage piece. That's the one I was more curious about.
Yeah. I don't know in particular of like any examples per se. But yeah, there are particular instances where he can remain as He-Man for as long as he wants. But he will revert back if he does take too much damage. I think this says like in the 2002 series, he's shown enduring the brunt of at least 2 large explosions he survives, but he reverts back to Adam in the process. So it kind of shows like even He-Man has like a limit to how much abuse he can endure. You know, I think there's a point where he like lifts the sword of power and he says, "Let the power return." And they would revert back to back to Adam and Cringer.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean there are certain instances where in combat, he would, if he took too much of that damage, he would revert back to the Adam form. So yeah, he's not like Superman that could go probably, or the Hulk that could go like infinite forever. So that would be obviously, being almost indestructible.
Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Shifting back into Adam, if you took 2 explosions and you shifted back to Adam, obviously it's like a quick pop to the head and you're dead.
You're like, oh, well, back to
whatever.
Back to the grind.
Gotta find somebody else,
Well, then, so the shape-shifting thing, I mean, I feel like I understand, like, what you're saying, like, in the sense of, like, yes, he's growing into a different person, but, like, when I think of shape-shifting, it's not just one person. I'm thinking more like...
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't shape-shift into, like, a different person. I mean, he obviously does for He-Man, but, like, he can't, like, shift into, like...
Skeletor
or like, a different person and altogether, like... It's the transformation from Adam to He-Man that he's able to,
Yeah, it basically changes appearance in that sense. But I did find this interesting, though, that with He-Man is that I understand that he's had multiple comic runs. And not only just with, like, like the big name like DC or Marvel, but, like, you got Dark Horse, I thought I just saw one too. I think it might have just been really Dark Horse, but I don't know if there was like many others after that. But like I know the DC and I didn't really know Marvel did it, but I know DC sounded like they had more of a production with the He-Man side of the house than really Marvel ever did.
Yeah,
it could have been just like a one-off or whatever, but like it seemed like DC was actually like giving it more time and effort into this. And like Dark Horse, sure, they did it recently in the last few years, but it seems like, what I would think, they don't have the rights to him, but like, if you did back in the day, cause I think it was, I don't know if it was like early 90s or some shit like they did with the DC stuff, but like realistically, I was like, just keep it on DC. You know what I'm saying? Like if you've already done it with DC and I've already done, those like series of issues and stuff, then just continue to do it. You know what I mean? And like maybe sure you can do like here and there with Dark Horse or whatever, but like just stick with them.
Yeah, I mean, He-Man and the characters within He-Man and the Masters of the Universe belong obviously to Mattel. So like DC doesn't have a license to make, Masters of the Universe. I guess it says Marvel used to have the license for a while, but they don't now. But Dark Horse and many others, used to. But I think, we've said this in many different, episodes where that's really where things get dicey, especially, with DC, because DC is known for this, where you do different comics and you have these, with DC and Marvel and Dark Horse and, you end up creating different lore. And that's really like where it's different. And, the primary weapon that we know that he used is the sword. He used the sword of power. But in some of the earlier versions and some of the comic books, he's shown with an axe, not with a sword.
Okay.
And, he has an axe and a shield, and he's used, in some of the mini comics, he's actually using a laser gun. So like, it's really like,
well, first of all, why would you use a laser gun personally? But
I mean, he's a freaking barbarian. He doesn't
make any fucking sense at that point.
Need that, but you have the sword, the sword of power, which is like what we're used to seeing. Like he raises it above his head, but some of the earlier versions, like I said, he has an axe, and it's like the double-headed axe. I remember I seen it, so it's like he's used the axe. Why?
I mean, does it do the same exact fucking thing, or is it just something different?
I think it's, I think it was more of like a plot device, not really something like he would use. Like, I think the sword was obviously the primary weapon because it's like the sword of power, but like I think the axe was something that, he would probably use to maybe like get into Castle Grayskull or like use it for.
It could have been like basically his like origin story, like kind of weapon,
I think if he was like in a bigger battle, like he would grab the axe and like,
Yeah, so I mean, I get it. He's kind of using both. I mean, but ultimately, the power of this, the sword of power. Yes, clearly that's the main part of this whole thing. That's how he basically becomes He-Man instead of just like saying that. Oh, well, the axe does that too. I'm like, well, no, you can't. Doesn't make any fucking sense if you have two things that basically can make you do that. It's like have one or the other, and that's why they clearly chose the sword more than they did with the axe.
Yeah. What I do find funny is like, how I think today's society, when you see like at least Prince Adam, maybe not so much He-Man, but like when you see Adam, he's kind of become this like LGBTQ.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like kind of icon, because obviously like you look at the character and he's kind of got like that pink-ish kind of like clothing, and they make him kind of look out to be like this kind of like gay stereotypical character, even though in the show like they don't mention anything about it and they don't need to. But like what people don't quite understand is like as a barbarian, like he's not wearing a fucking leather bondage harness. like he's not wearing like a kink harness. you know what I mean? Like he's not like a gimp, like wearing like some kind of a weird thing. Like if you look at, even, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan the Barbarian, like he may not have worn the same thing, but I think back to like the original X-Men Juggernaut.
Yeah, I see what I see. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like that same like leather type thing. Like, was he into bondage too? Like, just because like it's a fucking barbarian, dude. Like,
well, so this is another thing. So like if we're going on the track of this, so I find it interesting here too. Is like it says when development on a live action remake of the film was first announced, LGBT Lifestyle magazine Out also described the original series as one of the gayest cartoons of all time, and said that in the 1987 film turned an entire generation of boys at least a little gay. Well, that's fucking oddly specific. And how would you know that was actually the case in 1987? That it turned these little boys gay? Like, how do you know that?
You really look too far into it, because I think even this thing is like, the Daily Telegraph noted fan interpretations that the character's dual identity represents a man's struggle to accept his sexuality. Like Prince Adam is closeted while He-Man is out and proud. What the fuck are you talking about here? Like, so He-Man was fighting evil. Like, what part of gay does that say to you?
Well, hold on. This is another good thing. Right. Hold on, and this gets better. So the Instinct magazine's Gerald Biggerstaff. So that says a lot. Wow. Right there. Yeah. Described the original cartoon as being quite popular with gay men who grew up in the 1980s and 90s, and for that, many of them, He-Man prompted their gay awakenings. Like, first of all, I'm gay. Like, what? Like, does that just
I watched He-Man and I never had a gay awakening.
I apparently, just never got there, man. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, how do you, to me, it's like when you look at a cartoon, right? Or when you actually really, let me rephrase that. When you look at a show and you think to yourself, like, you all of a sudden think, you know what? I'm going to be gay because this show is telling me that this is really for gay men. And it's like, first of all, you're right. Like, is it based off the fact that he's wearing this like kind of leather, kind of strap or whatever, like, to hold his stuff and whatever. And it's like, is he wearing tight clothing? Is he, certain things? And it's like, I'm pretty sure the producer or basically the show creator, right? I'm pretty sure in the back of his mind is like, you know what? Yep, this is a gay show. You know what? I'm just going to make sure that everyone knows that in the forefront. I don't think that was in his actual intentions. I think it was just more like, hey, this is what we're doing. And then, this is all the shit. But I'm like, but you got to agree with me here. You don't just assume like, you know what? We're going to make this a gay ass show. Don't you worry, Betty. We're going to make sure that everyone knows this. I don't think that was ever the intention here, but I just find it funny that all this shit is all of a sudden happening.
And there was actually an actor that said in 2016 he realized he was gay while playing with his He-Man figure as a child, being attracted to the character's physique, particularly his pecs.
You don't say.
I find that particularly disturbing if you're attracted to a toy.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. I just read that too. I don't understand.
You realized you were gay while playing with when I was a child, I had like a lot of the He-Man figures. I had Castle Grayskull, like I had all of them, and I absolutely loved playing like with the He-Man figures and everything, but I never came across like, even watching it now, like, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see maybe coming across Prince Adam as being but like sexuality isn't something that's like,
well, I would say assume that it's talked about.
It's not something in the show that's like talked about or whatever. Like it's not something that's like popularized in the show.
So this is, it's funny because
this is like a today's society.
Well, no, I agree.
A today's society thing.
So it's funny because then this is the response from Mattel and some of the insiders on this. So people who are working on the Masters of the Universe Revelation, so the basically the newest one, right? If I'm not mistaken, right? Or at least one of the newer ones, because like basically this guy who or two guys, sorry, Rob David and Tim Sheridan, and they worked on the Masters of the Universe Revelation. They discussed the character's homoeroticism and gay fan base, and according to David, who is an executive producer of Revelation and the Mattel's vice president of creative contact, Mattel is very comfortable with He-Man's gay audience and the perception of the character as a gay man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would be too, as long as like what they're saying in the beginning of that is like whether a future installment of the franchise should have him be openly gay, like has not been discussed. Like, as long as they keep that, like,
right.
I don't think that really matters. Like whether or not you make, He-Man or Prince Adam like actually gay. You can have the LGBTQ audience think whatever the hell they want.
Correct.
Like whatever you want to think of the character. If you want to have him as a gay icon, go for it. Like,
be my guest.
It's an audience, whatever. Go for it. But like, once they start changing the storylines and they start adding this shit in, that's when He-Man changes to being what it was to being something else. And also, that's what I just said. I mean, it becomes completely something else. That's when you start having this like DEI shit and you start having these like biased messages that you are sending out, and you don't need it. Like with He-Man, like you just don't need it. Like keep it the way it is. Like I loved like the 2022 and the 2021 reboots of it because they were so good. Like you really don't need to do very much with them to be like good. I mean, it's He-Man. You don't need to change his sexuality. You just need to write good stories. Right?
Well, no, I agree. And I mean, it just sucks that, when we've been talking about this before, right? I mean, you have a good story, you have, the characters. I mean, granted, we've talked about a little bit so far. I mean, I know we're going to be talking some more here shortly, but like, when you have, a story and you have all this stuff in place and all this stuff, you don't need, you're right. You don't need to basically start changing it for what it is. I mean, because like you said, as long as you're giving that message of like, hey, you know what? He-Man's this, if you'd want to believe that he is gay, then go for it. Be my guest, not a big deal. But right, when you start you basically tailoring that to just them and to do all this, I mean, sure, fine. You know what? Then Then you'll have a show strictly for, I guess, just the LGBTQ community. Sure, by all means. But at the end of the day, the original intention was never to do, just that. It's basically saying, hey, sure, we'll say he's gay, or maybe we'll do a show that maybe he is gay, whatever. But it doesn't mean that the origin of the character has to be that. Because
I don't even think you need to mention it. Like, just tell a good story. Like, you don't have to even go that route. Like, you're talking about like a place that's like magic, mythology. Like, you don't need to go that route. And this is like, even with Marvel, with DC, like, you don't need to go that route. Just follow the comic book. If it's already part of the character, fine.
Hey, but they fucking go that way.
I know. And they go this way, like, the whole, like, Loki being like non-binary or asexual, whatever. Like, who fucking cares what he is? He's a fucking comic book character.
You're right.
And you're not going to date him. He's not a real fucking person. Like,
right. And not only that, I mean, unless, like, so for example, right? So, like, if, I know it's kind of random to me mentioning ever this, but like, let's say you change the story to like Black Panther and technically Storm, right? I know we're just kind of throwing it out there randomly, but like, yeah. Now, if you said, hey, you know what? Black Panther's going to date some white chick or, whatever down the road or whatever. Yeah, fine. Now you're fucking up the story because now it's like, okay, well, we're just going to make it, we want to do interracial. Okay. I'm not saying you can't, but at the end of the day, it's like, why are you doing that when technically I know that Storm and him were technically together? So why are you switching it up completely? But like,
yeah, it's really stupid. Sense. Like keep He-Man and the Masters of the Universe the way that it is. It's still a good story. Like, is he a little strong? Yes. I would say he's pretty strong, but like I said, the weakness is even though he can remain as He-Man indefinitely, he obviously can't exert more than he, I guess, can really handle as He-Man, or he can't take too much damage as He-Man. So he's not completely indestructible, but I'm sure he can take a lot of damage before, he does revert back. But even when he goes back to Prince Adam, as long as Adam's not unconscious, all he has to do is raise the sword and do the chant again, and he can go right back. So, I mean, it's not like he's completely out of the fight.
Right.
And most of the cartoon, I mean, that wasn't the case. I mean, he was able to fight and do whatever he needed to do. I mean, most of the shit, I mean, he welded a fucking metal chain together just by pushing the links together.
Like, just hold on.
Yeah.
That's it. No problem.
And if you're looking at strength, I mean, lifting Castle Grayskull and throwing it through a interdimensional portal, like, that's some shit right there. Like,
well, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, that's not impressive. I mean, but when I'm also thinking about, again, I'm mentioning the Hulk here, but it's like, somebody like that, when you're holding a goddamn planet together,
yeah,
that's saying a lot, though. Like, I'm not saying that you can't, Well,
I mean, he lifted mountains and threw them.
Well, no.
So I mean, like, there's still very, very similar. But like, yeah, I don't think if he was doing what Hulk did and actually holding a planet together or holding a black hole open,
I don't think he'd survive personally.
He could probably do it for a little while, but I think there would be a point in time where
he would take too much damage.
That power would eventually wear out, and he would revert back to Prince Adam. Like, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, and then basically you throw a rock at his head, and then he's dead. So it's like that's what it would be, right?
Yeah, and then it's a quick ding with the Skeletor's staff and right in the forehead, and you're
done. So then you basically wouldn't have He-Man anymore.
You're done, kid.
Yeah, fucking done, kid.
But the newer, the newer show, which is Masters of the Universe Revelation, It was in two parts, and then the Masters of the Universe was the second series was Revolution. That was in 2024 in January.
Which I'm assuming you watched.
I actually watched all of them, but the Revelation was in two parts. They had 5 episodes. That was in July of 21, and then 5 additional in November of 21, and then January 25th of 2024 there was the Revolution, came out. But that one, I believe they, kind of introduced Skeletor as being, I believe it was He-Man or Prince Adam's uncle. I believe is what the...
I just saw, I saw that a little bit ago, but yeah, it was supposed to be like his uncle, and it's what's his name? King Randor, his brother, basically. Yeah, so basically that in that sense of it. But I mean, I know in the original series, that's not the case. He was just not even close to being that.
Yeah, they didn't really go that route with like the character. He basically was just kind of like a villain. They I don't think they really went into like the backstory of him until like maybe like the mini comics and the comic books, and he was Keldor's long lost brother. Well, he is Keldor, but he was King Randor's long lost brother. And they, through the kind of like learning the secret, like he was experimenting, and like I think it was like became Skeletor through like his own kind of selfishness instead of like becoming like what he was meant to become.
Well, it's kind of like, and I'll say it, it's kind of like the whole Captain America like Red Skull thing where, he took that same serum that I can never remember his fucking name, but the guy who actually created the super soldier serum, and it personified his personality. And I'm not saying it's exactly like that, but that could be very well similar where he must have done something and it was like, well, because of your selfishness and whatever, like you became what you perceived, and Skeletor was that, kind of character. But the weird, I'll say this, because I know we've been talking a lot about the kind of the seriousness of the show, but like, I kind of want to talk about the dumb shit and the funny ass shit that, they do, but like,
so I can say in, what was it? Revelation.
Yeah.
So the first set of those Masters of the Universe like shows.
Yeah.
So Tila really becomes kind of more of a driving force in those episodes. And she and this other like, woman go on a quest. Okay. And they're looking for an artifact.
Oh yeah, this is where. Yep, you're right.
So they're searching for this artifact, and they're commissioned with like, go and find the artifact and return it. Whatever, blah blah blah. Well, the artifact is a glove.
Let's start there because
the artifact is the glove of Glavernia.
And hold on, Matt. And who are they? Like, who are they? Like, what is the like race or species of them?
They're Glavernians, John.
Oh, because remember how we talked about the creativity and imagination for this?
And I get it. It's like the glove of Glavernia, and people from Glavernia would be Glavernians. But you couldn't call the glove like something else.
And if I'm not mistaken, aren't they technically they look like gloves?
I don't think they look like. Let me look them up.
I really, what, you look that up. So like another little quick thing. All I know is that I remember seeing it was like usually it was in the early. I'm pretty sure in like the 1980s version of this, but like Skeletor at like the end of an episode would always have this like PSA regarding. I mean, it could be the dumbest shit. Like it could be going like, "Hey kids, remember to brush your teeth and floss every day." Okay. And then he would say something really fucking. It was like something towards He-Man. He's like, "I'll get you next time, He-Man," and he like would take off and do his thing. And I'm sitting there like, what kind of shit is that? Like, I mean, I understand this is around the time of like the whole Ronald Reagan campaign, and I basically saying like, we're trying to do like the PSAs and stuff, like all his fucking shit that he was doing. But like, do we have to sit there and listen to him fucking, hey kids, blah, 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 or, say some public service announcement every fucking episode on whatever the fuck he was talking about. And then sometimes it was random. It wasn't even just like, it could be the dumbest shit. It was like, hey kids, remember to mow your lawn today, because next time I don't know, if you don't do it, then it's just going to look like tumbleweeds out there. Okay. See you next time or whatever. So it was but it was never really like something that was even worth your time, but it was like, why are you doing it, you fucking weirdos? But all right, go ahead and tell me about this Glevernian thing.
I can't actually find a picture of him, so
I swear, well, you can't call them like Glevernians if they don't look like fucking gloves, right? I mean, because that's the whole point.
I mean, I think they look just like people, but
I think they look like a glove shaped head. That's what I think. If I was to take a guess.
But I think it's just you couldn't think of a different name for the freaking glove itself. Like, you could have come up with a different name for the glove.
You got me, Matt.
Naming them
Glevernians.
I mean, yeah, they're from Glevernia, so it makes sense. Like,
no,
it completely makes sense. Like, people from Iran are Iranians. Like, like that part makes sense. But like, just the fact that their missing artifact is a glove is, I mean, it's not a cup. It's not a jewel. It's not a stone. It's not some like, picture or anything else. No, it's a glove. So I just think it's so freaking weird. I mean, if they had to go search for a cup, it would be like the cup of the Copernians. That's how stupid this.
Oh no, I'm just saying.
That's really how stupid this is. Like, it would be the cup of the Copernians, and they were from Copernia, and they're Copernians because they were missing their precious artifact, which is a cup.
And this is what I'm talking about, man. I mean, like when I say the creativity in the show is fucked up, it's like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? So like, I just randomly found this random character real quick. Like, just for example, Sir Laserlot. And it says, is a knight in an enchanted blue armor wielding a laser sword, shield, and mace. And I'm like, and apparently it was sculpted by like the four horsemen, like Sir Laserlot. It was apparently exclusively for the classic Shonen, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just sitting there like, okay, so are you saying like I'm like Sir Mix-a-Lot? You know what I'm saying? Like for, but in He-Man form, like it's, I don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, okay, well, Sir Laserlot, like, oh, okay, so what's so cool about him? Like he shoots lasers out of his asshole. Like what are we talking about here? Like I'm just confused on why you're calling him Sir Laserlot. I don't know. It's random shit like this, and I just don't get it why they do it.
So this one's kind of funny because this one, I mean, his name is Fisto.
Does he use his fist?
He actually has a metal right hand.
You don't say, man.
You can't really make it. I mean, a character Fisto, and he has a metal right hand. I mean, he obviously uses it to hit and to punch. I mean, he's a extra strong warrior because he has a metal right hand. I mean, you have more of these. I mean, it's like, there was one I was reading that was called Buzz Off, and it's a humanoid bee. He's a leader of a tribe of bee people.
So
his name is Buzz Off. People
hold on. I think I have someone. I was going to say at least I have something right now that I think is probably just as matching with that. So there's one. It sounds like a group of people, but they're called. Or no, sorry. I guess it isn't actually. It's just one person. The name is called Yuckers. Okay, Yuckers. It says, he's the mischievous brother of Dree-El. He wears a trucker cap and sports a Y on the front of his garment. Yuckers. Like, I just, a trucker cap. Like, he's very specific in that, too. Like, again, we're talking about I'm going to say like a medieval kind of like universe. Why the fuck would you be wearing a trucker's cap with a Y on it and his name's Yuckers? I don't.
I mean, Mechanic. You can automatically assume he has a telescoping mechanical neck. Mechanic.
I mean, and the fact I mean, hold on. This is a guy named Blade. He's a master swordsman and a bounty hunter with an eye patch and has a Shenandoah. I think it's probably like a Shemagh or something like that. But apparently has no hair.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so he's like Edward Scissorhands without any hair. Like I don't.
So there are members of these rock people. They can transform from meteors to animal forms. They're called meteorbs. Really original, I know. But there's a few of them. Astro Lion. Guess what he transforms? Guess what he is? He's a lion, John. Comet Cat. A panther.
Oh, a panther. Oh, nice.
You don't say. Tuskor. You know what he is?
Yes, woolly mammoth. I have no idea.
You're right. Exactly.
I'm gonna guess here.
And with 3 R's, John, not just 1 or 2, but 3 R's.
Yep.
Tiger. He's a heroic tiger meteorb.
Well, hold on. So actually, I found some other meteorbs too. There's also Rhinorb, who's an evil rhinoceros.
Oh, you don't say.
And there's an Orbear.
Is he a bear?
He's an evil grizzly bear. Get it right.
Oh, boy.
And then you have a Gorilla. Hold on, ready?
So stupid.
Hold on. It says an evil ape with monstrous muscle power. Then you got a Dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
And then you got Crocobite.
Oh, boy.
But again, it's just like, really? Like, what the fuck is this shit? And then, okay, here's a weird one. You got Faker. It's an evil duplicate of He-Man created by Skeletor. And apparently, however, so his sole appearance in the cartoon, Faker is a magical creation identical to He-Man apart from his glowing eyes and odd imitation. That's great. So it says in the Masters of the Universe Revelations, Faker partakes in the attack on Castle Grayskull and is sliced in half by a man-at-arms laser. That says a lot because he's a faker.
Yeah. Cyclone. And clone was with a K, so it's SY-KLONE. Cyclone. He is a heroic warrior with the power of hyperspin.
Oh,
you don't say. Cyclone hyperspin.
I mean, or
he can generate whirlwinds and fly by spinning his torso and arms.
Or you know what? I'm gonna say it, man. I kind of like this next one, Ninjor. A ninja warrior who works for Skeletor. He was never featured in the cartoon because his figure was released after it ended. But I love Ninjor, like not ninja, but Ninjor.
Ninjor.
And I mean, we can keep going, guys. I mean, shit. They got.
Oh, they just keep going. I mean,
what is it? Panther. You got Screech. You know, like Spikor, Stinkor.
Yeah.
Or you got the oars here. Do I have to keep going here? Because it's like, what the fuck?
There's a character named Hawk, and she was a female member of for the bird people.
I mean, you got, what is it? Twistoid, like a robotic minion of Skeletor, apparently. Whiplash, an alligator.
Oh, so I found the enemy of Ninjor.
Oh yeah, who's the enemy?
The Slamurai.
Are you shitting me? That's the name?
He's a heroic white-clad ninja from the planet of Bushido.
Oh, Bushido.
Yeah, he was the enemy of Ninjor. So the Slamurai fighting Ninjor. Oh, you just can't make this shit up. Sir Laser Law. Yeah, there's Decor.
Hold on. And then you got Icer, who is a Skeletor's northern agent who can freeze someone and dissolve into water to get under tight spots. Then you got Fang Man. There you go. Fang Man
Fang
is
Man.
a dragonoid who appeared in one episode. He has a power to control dragon-like creatures called dragosaurs.
I mean, you have Lizard Man. I mean, and this is like most of the characters are all like, Lizard Man, Moss Man, Beast Man, Merman,
Goat Man.
Like you have a lot of these guys that are like literally he's a lizard man, and that's Beast Man is like he looks like a beast and he's in the form of a man. Like Merman, he looks like basically your sea creature, but he is in the form of a man. Like it's not very imaginative. Like
No. I mean, I'm even looking at some of these other ones. I'm just like, Optic is a cyborg with a single giant eyeball for a head.
yeah, Strobo. He has a mirror built into his chest and possesses light reflecting powers. Strobo.
Strobo.
He literally is like a strobing light.
Well, hold on. So what about this one? You think when we were talking about our last episode, this one, I don't know, it depends on which way you go with it, but Slave Master? Isn't there a galactic crime boss who travels the universe capturing slaves from across the galaxies? Like you think, you think that would go well with depending on who portrays them? You know what I mean? I would be like, I don't know who you'd want to make that one. Captain Sticky Fingers?
Yeah. Clawful. It's a giant anthropomorphic crab with claws similar to a fiddler crab. The figure has a swarthy skin and boots are dark blue and has red skin and yellow boots in the cartoon.
I don't know why, but I don't know why I feel like this is you, but Negator. This is wrong. Negator. Sorry, Negator.
What did you just say? What did you just fucking call me?
What the fuck you call me? So
Yeah, fucking Negator.
Negator. So hold on. This guy.
Oi, Negator.
Whoa.
Hey now.
So this guy is a computer whiz hell-bent on attaining great power for himself. What are you trying to fucking say there, messed up motherfucker? I'm like, yeah, you heard me. And apparently he did not have a toy made of him, not to be confused with Megator. Not Megatron, but Megator. They get, they can't use the copyrights, so.
Did you already say Screech? Because that's a barbaric bird that spies for Skeletor.
Yeah, I did say Screech is like a quick one, but I didn't really go into him. But yeah, no, Screech.
Spikor. It's a humanoid covered in spikes. You can see where we're going. I mean, obviously, as we
There's
can go
a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Stinkor, an anthropomorphic skunk with magical control over his own stench. I mean,
That's what I was saying about Stinkor. Yeah,
we were kind of mentioning that one before. In the toy version, actually used the same mold as Merman.
Oh, great.
The same mold of armor as Mechanic, and actually smelled like patchouli oil. That's awful. That's fucking awful, dude. Like
the fact that they actually used a stink agent.
It was one of only 3 scented toys Mattel produced.
I wonder what the other 2 are.
It says the others being Moss Man and Perfuma from the She-Ra line.
But the fact that Moss Man and Stinkor were scented toys that they actually made is surprising to me. At least with Stinkor. So you're telling me they had to make them really putrid to make sure that he had got the part just right, And then Moss Man might have been no any better at that point.
Yeah. Why you would have it smell like patchouli?
I don't know, man.
So it just smells like a dirty hippie.
Wow. Very technical in that statement.
Dirty hippie.
Fucking dirty hippie.
Webster, not the little black kid from the 80s.
Wow, I was just thinking like Webster Dictionary. You just went there.
But he's a blue-skinned creature with the abilities of what? A spider. Webster.
Sure. At least that's a little bit more creative, but I never would have thought spider.
Yeah, it's a little bit. It's a little bit there.
But I think
strong arm, a cyborg with a long, long metal right arm with strength that can rival He-Man.
I
He
literally
just has one. This is my strong arm.
It's my strong hand. You know, hold on. It's my strong hand.
Dude, there is a goat man.
I told you that. I just said that earlier. I said it really quickly.
Oh my gosh.
No, but my point is, guys, is that when we're talking about these characters, I'm like, we're not making this shit up. This is something you could actually look this shit up yourself. We're just saying it because we don't want you to, waste your time here. But that's why we're wasting your time, because we're just saying it. But no, these are real characters, real things that are in the show.
They really came up with them, and they really just did not think of. They literally just were very, like I said, they were very literal with the names of these characters. They really just didn't. I mean, you could have just went on a generator.
Yep.
And just generated a freaking name.
I honestly, you know what I thought that they did? I think what they decided to do, I think they just sat at a table and they said, all right, what can we fuck up today? And who are we going to make today as a villain?
Honestly, what it looks like is they used the child's drawing to make the toys.
I mean, clearly.
And obviously, if they had the toys and they had the whole toy line before they created the show, what probably ended up happening was they used the same child who created the drawing to go, what is this character's name? Oh, that's Beastman. Oh, what is this character's name? And then that's how the naming of everything within He-Man ended up being, is you take a child who's oh, well, that is Merman. Oh, well, that is Trapjaw.
And that is Goat Man.
What's happening with his jaw? Well, he has a metal jaw. Okay.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, this is probably, it's pretty sad, but I would say yeah, you're right. Early on of we don't have any imagination today. So like I said, I feel like we're going to sit at a table.
We don't have any imagination at all.
So we figured, let's talk to a child. So like I said, I swear to God, they probably were sitting at a table and they were just let's talk to that kid. Let's talk to him about some characters' names. And we just thought, hey, Goat Man, Beast Man, fucking Trapjaw, all these other fuckheads. And it's no problem. Who gives a fuck? We're just trying to throw them into a TV show. Come on, dude. This is your random generator. And this is basically a kid doing it for them.
Yeah, and and granted, the newer shows that came out, Masters of the Universe, that they did Revelation and Revolution, they're actually really, really good, but they continue with that because that's where the glove of Glavernia takes place, and it continues a lot of that. But you could really create something new and do something really great where you don't have to continue that stupid ass naming of shit. Where you're oh, well, he has a microphone for a face, so we'll call him Mike Head or Mike Man. You know what I mean? You're
yeah, or
the hell,
or micro phone. Or just do something, that weird little thing that they've been doing. It's
yeah, well, let's be Mike Man would be MIC dash man
so McMahon.
and you're okay, well, I mean, it makes sense because he has a mic and
he's
for a face, and he's a man, so it makes sense.
So yeah, just throw it in there. It's
just throw it in there. But you could actually give him a legit
name,
creative name, other than what he I get it. For kids, Trapjaw, it makes sense. He has a fucking metal mouth. It makes sense.
Oh yeah,
Beastman. It's easy to remember. Other than I was watching. I think there's 5 episodes for Rings of the second season for Rings of Power, and even the Lord of the Rings. If you told me to what characters were which, I couldn't fucking name them to you. Just because Gladriel and all those weird ass names, I just couldn't tell you who the fucking names of all the characters were because they're just weird to me.
Well, they're weird and they're too damn long, because it's why would I want to tell you which characters who at that point?
So Beastman and Merman and He-Man and She-Ra and the Sorcerer, those are all names that you can remember. But I think the only name that's really the most unique is probably Teela.
Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong.
Because it doesn't explain anything.
Right. And it's just kind of random.
Teela doesn't tell me what the character is.
True.
I mean, even He-Man doesn't, but He-Man is just 2 pronouns put together.
True. That's why I told you that. I really said that. I was it's
really just 2 pronouns put together.
I mean, is it really a pronoun for the man part? I thought, pronoun would be like the he and the she and, that kind of stuff. But like,
well, I mean, man, I guess would be a pronoun. I mean, it would.
I don't know. Look, we're not English fucking experts here, but I'm just saying I don't know if it really is or not. But I know what you're saying. I mean, it makes sense in that regard, but it's just, again, well, I guess really the main point of this whole damn thing that we've been trying to say is that, the imagination in this goddamn TV show and really the whole line of things, like, holy fuck, guys. Like, I mean, goddamn, you could have easily, if they made a show now, like if this was the first time they made a show nowadays, I guarantee you AI could have done a better job of naming these fuckheads and doing all this instead of like, hey, you know what? We're just going to take a kid's imagination.
I can tell you, I mean, if they, I mean, not that I would be in that realm of like they coming to me and being like, hey, we want you to do a, animated show for He-Man. Yeah, I mean, some of the characters you probably can't rename, like Beastman and Merman. Like some of those you probably can't rename. But like what you can do is like Beastman or some of these, like, I mean, they're not main villains. They're really just like henchmen. That's really what they are. Like Skeletor is really the main villain. And Skeletor, like you can say Skeletor, he's a skeleton. But it is an imaginative name. Like Skeletor is what his name is. But like some of these characters, like you can give them backstories where maybe they do have an actual name that they're actually called, and you can establish that in an animated show where maybe like we would call them Beastmen because that's what the toy was called.
Right.
But maybe there's an actual name that they actually have. Where in the show, like, you can actually go through that. Like I said, they're not henchmen, so you're not going to spend a whole episode on Beastman or Merman or whatever, but, like, you can go through and elaborate on some of these names. Like, Man-at-Arms, he actually does have a name. So, like, you can go through that, like, history of, like, what the name is and, like
how he came to be. And
how he came to be. So, like, if you actually do a second season, instead of just calling him Man-at-Arms, you can call him by his fucking name.
Like Jim. Like, hey, Jim.
Hey, Big Jim.
Hey, you look at you big Jim motherfucker.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, you can actually establish these names and do it better now. Granted, they probably should have done that in the original show. But
should have, yeah.
And I think this is where G.I. Joe is a little bit different because they thought better. What I mean? They created the toys and they had names. I mean, they had nicknames and everything, and they
code names, but they actually had real names.
They had backstories, and like even the henchmen of Cobra, like they had stories and they had names and they had like their designations of what they did and their specialities and stuff. And
and if you guys want to check out the G.I. Joe episode / Transformers, go ahead, check it out. Because
I mean, it wasn't just Cobra Commander. It wasn't like Snake Man,
like
or
Snake Man,
Metal Face Man. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't the same. Like,
no, it wasn't.
If you apply the same thing to G.I. Joe, it would just be like Military Man.
Military Man,
Paratrooper Man,
or Sailor Man,
Sailor Man,
or Marine Man, or Army Man. No,
Native American Army Man,
Native American Army Man.
But we're being silly with this, but it's like G.I. Joe just didn't apply the same thing. Like they actually went and actually did use their imaginations and created backstories and things. Where He-Man, it was like, I think a child created these characters and they were like, hey, this is great shit. Like, keep going. How about this character? Oh, that's a skunk. So Stinkor. How about this one? Well, he looks like a ninja.
Ninjor.
What would you call him? Ninjor. Well, that's great.
Yeah, and then what was it?
This one's a white one, though. What's this one? Slamurai,
bitch.
Like this is like a little kid's like just coming up with this, and they're like, "Man, this is some great shit. This is gonna sell so many fucking toys."
He's like, "It's even gonna be better because we're gonna get an Emmy. We're gonna get all this shit." And you're like sitting there like, "What the fuck?" I mean, no. Now, granted, now I'm gonna change the subject here for a second. I know that they did like an IGN thing where top 10, or sorry, not top 10, top 100 like best animated TV shows of all time. Like I'd say it's in the middle is what they put it at. It was like 58 or whatever. But like, I mean, I know we've been shitting on basically He-Man in a sense, but like it is, again, it's still a good show. It's got, its quirks, as we've been talking about, but
it's got its quirks. But like I said, like, I think when you have, with the newer episodes, it was Kevin Smith. He was the one that created Revelation and Revolution.
Makes sense.
And they're, like I said, they are really, really good. As I said, they continue that really stupid ass naming system within He-Man that
honestly, if you were gonna,
they really should elaborate on. But like the concept of He-Man and what they do with it's a great cartoon.
Well, and I was kind of looking at it too. I think they were talking about Revelations. They were saying that it's not directly towards like the continuation part of it. I guess they were saying that, does it relate to the original series? They said it was like some kind
of an alternate universe.
Yeah. And like they said that basically with even Revelations is just of course, clearly a continuation from that to, Revelations, but it's, I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like, if you're right. If you're going to do a new series and you're going to, do the concept of He-Man, or just really, I'd probably even say any really TV show or movie, at the end of the day, you should really look at leave the original alone. If you really want to do a new concept, great. Then, focus on that. And so what I mean by that too is just now, even with what we talked about is the whole naming convention. Like, actually name the motherfuckers like Tim, Jim, fucking, I don't give a fuck, Larry, for all I care. Like, name these guys and actually follow.
And don't call it a fucking glove. Call it something else. Like,
call it the Fist of fucking Fury. I don't know, or something stupid.
Call it something else. But like, if you call the artifact something else,
like the Glove of Lavernia,
it could be the blank of the blank of Glavernia.
Right. I mean,
because it's from Glavernia. So, it's obviously theirs. But if you name it something else, then it becomes whatever that artifact is.
I mean, the vacuum of Glavernia, I don't give a fuck. I mean, I'm looking at one right now, but it's just like, you're right. You don't have to sit there and tell me you can't fucking think of something different or make a different artifact in general and then just put Glavernia at the end of it.
Yeah.
And make it totally different. Or make it could be the Fist of Glavernia and be like, hey, let me show you a knuckle sandwich or some shit. Like, you know what I mean?
The knuckle sandwich of Glavernia. Yeah.
Here's a knuckle and here's some fucking sandwich you're about to get in your face. No, I'm just saying, it's like,
here's a middle finger of
Glavernia.
So let me show you yourself.
As in, like, here's two just for you. No, but guys, I mean, we've been talking about He-Man and, kind of shitting on it too. But like I said, I really enjoyed He-Man, and I still, whether or not they actually get it. I mean, I know that they've been talking about doing a movie, and it's really, I mean, He-Man is kind of a really tough concept, and I mean, technically they did Flash Gordon as a live action, so I mean,
they did. I mean, Dolph Lundgren did, the movie back in the day, and it's not a great movie. And I think it's because it didn't exist in Eternia. Like it was like He-Man going through a portal to Earth.
So modern.
And it like happening like here, which is weird in general. But like, I think if they were to do it like very much like Lord of the Rings, like high budget, it would be like really, really cool.
Well, I would say now, yes, because then you have that technology to do so.
But it's still, I mean, it's still a really tough concept, especially, with the naming system and everything. I was like
I said,
it's still really, really tough concept. And you'd almost have to do like a new story and maybe new villains, keeping, obviously Skeletor, but maybe not using like the Beast Man and the Merman and all those like stupid
and the Goat
villains,
Man and the drink,
but actually like creating new villains or elaborating on those original
concepts or the original villains.
The original concepts, and instead of it being a Beast Man, actually create a name for him. And in the movie, like you actually have that name, and it could happen. But like, I mean, it's still a great show.
He's like, I'm still biased. It's a great show. Just if you guys want to watch something, just watch it, okay? Just don't worry about the naming system. You'll understand once you fucking see the show. But anyways, guys, I know we've been talking for a bit, and I'm not gonna lie. I know Matt and I are fucking exhausted. We are feeling it today. But anyways, that's a different story. But again, guys, when it comes to YouTube, Spotify, all the fun stuff, just again, share it out with your buddies. Share it out with those people who are geeks. It don't matter whether you like movies or comic books or fucking TV shows, whatever, right? Because we've talked about it before, even in the last episode. We want to explore different options. We're not just trying to be the generic, podcast of like, oh, we only do this, we only do that. No, fuck that shit. We are different, goddammit. We are trying to be exclusive to everything. It's not even just we're trying to be inclusive on certain things, but we're trying to be exclusive in like so many different realms because we've talked about it in the last episode. We want to do a true crime. That's what we're working on. We're trying to get new ideas, new shit going on all the time. Because we know that there are, different ideas that you guys have. And, we've been looking at podcasts and different ideas just to kind of like get an idea of like, hey, what's different and new? Maybe we can try to do, kind of our own take on it, So that's why we thought of the true crime thing and, or whatever, right? So like when you guys talk about it with us, hopefully the idea is that you guys are going to be wanting to do this with us, and, we want your input. We're not just sitting here, again, two guys on two different mics talking every week, doing the same old shit, like we don't want to do that every time. We want to keep it live and keep it going, because we want to hear from you. Not that I don't want to hear from my cousin Jeff. Love you, dude. But trust me, there's so many of you that I hope that one day you'll want to respond, man. And I'm not just picking on you guys. We just want to
give
hear
us
from
your
you.
suggestions. Like you said, like we want to hear what you give us ideas. Like if you want us to do an episode on something, like let us know. Like I said, we're planning a true crime one right now, and it's more like kind of a local story for New Hampshire back maybe 40 years ago or so.
40 years of a cold case that apparently we can't even get a whole lot of information on.
So, we are going to do an episode on that. I mean, but there's so much, so many more topics. And like, some of our very first episodes, like we define that a geek is not just video games and movies and TV shows and comic books. It's everywhere you look.
Right.
And people are into true crime, they're into video games, they're into movies, but there's a lot of people into other shit. So we want to try to get into that.
Right. And, we've been talking to other people too. I'm like, if you feel like you're, an expert or at least somebody that is confident in speaking, about it, let us know. Let us know. And maybe, like I said, we'll have to find a day where we can come on, we can do an episode. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, we're not just trying to be a generic podcast, because if that was the case, then shit, I'd just be like, let's call it the Marvel podcast and call it a fucking day. And that's all we'd fucking talk about. But I know that's not what we're trying to do. Or be the DC Marvel debate. It's like, we would be doing that too. But,
let's talk about DEI again.
Bitch. No, no. But again, guys, we talk about this all the time because we care, man. We just trying to get you guys to hopefully listen and do our thing. But until next time, boys and girls,
stay geeky.